Keep your eyes on the road and both hands on the steering wheel. Responsible for any accidents. It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
The Audio Genius.
Get in on the conversation with Rufus Williams and the Morning Show at 591-1690. We are the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Good morning, and welcome to Wednesday. It is the 19th of August, the year 2026. It's the Rufus Williams Show. I am Rufus Williams, and as always, thrilled, delighted, and just truly excited to be with you this morning. And thank you so much for waking up with Rufus. I've got a guest in the studio. It is school days. We're going to get into it a lot today. Becky Vevea is here. She is the tremendous executive editor of Chalkbeat, which covers all things education. So we're going to get to that. But first, our Friday evening host, Kendall Moore, joins us this morning to talk about a big thing that he's got going on in less than an hour. Kendall, good morning and welcome to the Rufus Williams Show. It's been a minute.
Hey, Brother Rufus, great morning to you and the WVON listening audience. Brother Rufus, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your platform this morning to share just a little bit of information about what we have going on today.
Fantastic. Well, when Qs call you and try to gangster you, what else can one do? So I yield the floor to my good friend, Kendall Moore. Kendall, you do a lot of things beyond just doing the show on Friday. So talk about what you're doing and talk about what this big thing is that you got going on with HIV.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Rufus. So today, and when I say we, I'm referring to the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. One, we are the largest global HIV/AIDS service provider globally. We are in 50 states. We're in 30 states. We are in 50 countries. And we have a problem here in the city of Chicago. Funding has been cut from our agency and from some of our affiliates, one being Southside Health Center, which primarily serves African Americans. And then the second is Kalur, which primarily serves Latinx populations. Rufus, HIV is on the rise, as are a lot of other infectious diseases. But particularly what we're doing this morning, Chicago, the HIV care system, it's in crisis. So we're doing a peaceful demonstration. It is taking place today. We're going to be at the Chicago Board of Health. That is 111 West Washington Street. We're asking everyone to come out to support us. We're going to meet up at 8 a.m. And again, I will repeat that. It's a peaceful demonstration. It's taking place today at the Chicago Board of Health. The address, again, is 111 West Washington Street. The reason that we're doing this is to bring awareness to the lack of accountability for the city of Chicago and the Chicago Department of Public Health. Black and brown populations here right now, the numbers have spiked, and this is not a time for the city of Chicago not to address the funding cuts.
Indeed. Go back to this one point you made, because you mentioned that HIV and AIDS are spiking up. That's fact that we may have been ignorant of because we don't talk about it at all as much as we did before. Give us a little bit more on that.
And so there has been a rise, funding cuts from across the globe. The Trump administration pretty much, they gutted PEPFAR. PEPFAR is a program that was put in place by Bush, Jr., for lack of a better term, George W., that really assisted and gave folks who were impacted by HIV and AIDS. It provided funding for those who otherwise would not be able to afford HIV/AIDS medications. That happened earlier this year. PEPFAR, it was gutted. Also, stateside, a lot of states' monies that were received from the federal government via CDC and HRS, HRSA, those monies were cut as well. And as a result, folks who typically would be able to walk into a clinic and receive care, continuity of care, so medications, case management, housing if they needed it, those services pretty much have just been taken off of the table. Now, here specifically in the city of Chicago, what the huge problem is here is that Southside Health Center, people like Kalor, the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, we are what is called grandfathered organizations, meaning we've been doing this for well over 25, some 50 years. And for the city to not have funded us, and what's more is they did not give us a reason as to why they're not funding us. It really presents a problem because the south and west sides of Chicago currently, and have been for some time, they are the highest, they have the highest incidence rates here in the city of Chicago. So the impact it's enormous.
Kendall, tell us again where you're going to be this morning and how people can help in this push, in this fight that you're this elevation that you're doing on such an important issue throughout the country.
And again, Rufus, I thank you for a couple moments, but we will be at the Chicago Board of Health. It's located at 111 West Washington Street. Again, that's the Chicago Board of Health, 111 West Washington Street. We're meeting up at 8 o'clock this morning. I'm headed there right now as we speak. Folks can go to ahf.org. And there is also a lot of literature that we're circulating on social media just the same.
Yes, Kendall Moore, our Friday evening host, out doing the work in the streets. Join him this morning at 8 o'clock. Kendall, thanks so much for what you're doing, and thanks for coming on with us this morning.
Have a great show, Rufus, all the time. Thank you.
Appreciate you. And now to my wonderful guest in the studio. Becky Vevea is the executive editor of Chalkbeat Chicago. And Chalkbeat Chicago, she can tell us better, but what they do is they focus in on the most, what I think is if not the most, one of the most important things in our society, which is education. Becky, welcome back to WVON.
Good morning, Rufus. It's so good to be here.
It's so good to have you. Now, as we started, Becky, it is truly, one, this is important for you, and it's important for all of us because, with you and your husband, you've got a starting five at your house.
Yes, we do. We have a basketball team. Yeah, we've got us and 3 boys. So it's a busy house, and 2 of them are in CPS. And so this, of course, is now very much a real thing for me in my life and many parents listening.
Yeah, real and personal, and stays there. And it's what makes public education so critical. Talk about, if you would, Chalkbeat, because
Sure.
You guys cover everything as it relates to education.
Yeah, so Chalkbeat is a nonprofit news organization. We have a website, chalkbeat.org/Chicago, if you want to see all the Chicago content. We are one of 8 bureaus across the country that cover public education and education in general. We also have a national team that covers the education department and national federal policies by the whichever administration is in office. So currently that's obviously President Trump. And so we are a network of education reporters essentially that focus in on the school districts in those different regions. Obviously I lead Chicago, and we primarily focus on CPS. We also do cover the state of Illinois and anything that the state would put in place that would affect districts across the whole state of Illinois and the suburbs in Chicago. We don't cover the specific suburban districts, but we cover them on sort of a trend basis.
So Becky, for you personally, what was your thing? Were you studying journalism or was it education? How did you end up with this connection between these things?
Yeah. So I studied journalism in college, but I always tell people, I was raised by an 8th grade English teacher. And I had a grandma who was an 8th grade English teacher. And so kind of my whole life, I really enjoyed writing, but I also had a connection to schools and education and spent many hours in their classrooms as they graded their papers and, taught grammar essentially to many 13 and 14-year-olds. So, when I went off to college, I knew I wanted to do something in journalism, writing. I was interested in policy. And so I majored in journalism. And then I got my first job in Milwaukee, covered the schools in Milwaukee, as well as, in Milwaukee, it's an interesting city. They have a public school system. Then they have charters that are contracted through the city council or the university there. And then they have the Milwaukee School Choice Program, which is one of the oldest voucher programs in the country. So I kind of cut my teeth there and then got a job down in Chicago in 2011, which was also the year that Mayor Rahm Emanuel was elected mayor, and just started covering schools that beat. And I kind of have I dabbled in politics for about 5 years, covered City Hall. But yeah, it's hard to believe it's been as long as it's been. And the amalgamation of my life and my career have really always swirled around education and politics. And
yeah, when one starts counting back, I look back at it and said, I think it was 20 years ago that I became president of the board.
I was going to say, right.
It's a lifetime for a lot of people. And I don't even know how that even happened. I don't know how any of it happened. But it did, and it gives us some basis, certainly, to have these conversations because it's so critical to do so. And I've shared this with our people before. Look, as we get into this historical time of an elected school board, this is a place to come because we got Becky Vevea. And right here, I do have a little bit of history, having been on the board.
I was going to say, are you going to do the history recap or should I? Because it is a fascinating history.
Yeah, I have been on the Board of Education. I've been the president of the Board of Education. I was the president of the local school council at Whitney Young. I was the treasurer and vice chairman at Providence St. Mel School. And I'm a life trustee and former treasurer of Francis Parker. Oh. So, and having spent the entirety of my education career in Chicago Public Schools learning, I think it gives me a little bit of a basis upon which we can have this conversation.
Right. And a graduate yourself, correct?
And I am a graduate myself of the wonderful Orr High School on the west side of Chicago, also having attended Lane Tech for a year. Oh, so I've covered the bases as it relates here. And I do have a son who graduated from Chicago Public Schools.
Yes.
Whitney Young.
Yes.
So there we are. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into it because there's a lot to really know about our schools from a broad standpoint, which is what Becky and I will cover this morning as we get ready to try and keep us all very informed about what's happening in our schools and what's happening in these choices we now have as it relates to our education. We'll be back right after this.
More of the morning show with Rufus Williams coming up on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Chicago, are you ready? Chicago Public Schools are back in session Monday, August 24th. It's time to get the backpacks ready, sharpen those pencils, set those alarms, and get 300,000 students ready for another year of learning, growth, and possibility. To every CPS student, parent, teacher, and school leader, we're cheering you on because education is the great equalizer. It's the pathway from opportunity to possibility. Let's start this school year strong. Chicago Public Schools back to school Monday, August 24th. WVON cares.
See something? Say something. Don't scroll. Call 911. OEMC's got your back. Help keep Chicago safe. Again, if you see something, say something. Don't just scroll. Call 911. OEMC's got your back. Help keep Chicago safe.
Coming to Wind Creek Casino and Hotel for one night only, it's the Terry Hunter Live Music Experience, presented by Dion Cole. For the first time ever, the music that has defined Terry Hunter's legendary career comes to life with a full live band, incredible vocalists, and an unforgettable production. Get your tickets for the August 29th show now at windcreek.com/Terry Hunter. It's only at Wind Creek Casino and Hotel. Must be 21 years or older. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40, and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Growing older doesn't mean slowing down. It means embracing a new chapter. Join Dr. LaDonna Ray for Senior Talk, featuring honest conversations about health, family, finances, community, and living your best life at every age. Get information you can use and inspiration you can carry with you. That's Senior Talks with Dr. LaDonna Ray, Saturdays at 7 a.m. only on WVON.
Are you ready? Not just to do hair, but to build a real beauty business.
If you're a stylist, a barber, or a beauty professional, this show is for you.
I'm Nidra Williams of Solo Beauty Supplies.
I'm Dr. Leka Sean, trichologist and salon owner.
Breaking down real strategy, real growth, and what it takes to win in this industry.
Tap in, lean in, and level up.
The Hair Salon Tour Show, where beauty professionals become business powerhouses. Join us Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Where beauty professionals become business powerhouses. WVON 1690.
This report is brought to you by Aleve. At some point, body pain may creep in and become your reality that day. But Aleve is here to help keep you moving forward. One pill gives you up to 12 hours of body pain relief. So don't let pain hold you back. Try Aleve today. Use as directed.
WVON traffic and weather now.
Starting out with an accident near South Chicago at the intersection of 81st and Jeffrey. As you make your way along the Ryan, you're off to a 23-minute start from 95th Street into downtown. The inbound side of the Bishop Ford, things are running smoothly there. Outbound, though, you do want to look out for an accident. It is blocking the left lane at Dalton Avenue, not affecting any travel times, traffic light traveling out. The inbound side of Tuskegee Airmen Memorial off to an early morning start. Some minor delays right around 111th Street as you make your way to the Ryan. DuSable Lakeshore Drive, quiet for now each way. As you make your way along the Stevenson, you're looking at 35 minutes from I-355 to DuSable Drive, 35 traveling out. The inbound side of the Eisenhower already 55 minutes in from Thorndale to the Burn Circle. Outbound will take you 50. And the Kennedy, heavy in both directions this morning. Already 41 minutes in from O'Hare to downtown. Getting to the airport, a slow-moving 50-minute trip. Taking our first look at weather, we're seeing just a few clouds. The National Weather Service says they'll give way to a little bit of sunshine, so we're in store for a mix of clouds and sunshine today as temperatures climb near 80 once again, back down to 65 tonight. Right now, we are looking at temperatures right around 67 at O'Hare. It's 67 in Chatham and 67 degrees here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm Annette Flournoy on the Talk of Chicago. 1690 WVON.
Keep your eyes on the road and both hands on the steering wheel. It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on the Talk of Chicago. 1690 WVON.
Welcome back. I am here again with the brilliant and talented and lovely Becky Vevea talking about Chicago schools and this upcoming election for school board. This is the first time we will have a fully elected school board. Becky,
21 people. Too.
21 people. It may be the largest in the country. But how did we get here? Because there was a time I recall, we always refer back to 1988 when William Bennett, who was then the Secretary of Education, called us the worst in the nation,
Mm-hmm.
which always stung, but it always gave us a place to grow from.
Sure.
And there became this whole sense of who's in charge of the schools.
Right.
So talk about that, Becky, and the history that brings us to today.
Yeah. So around that time, so there was a big piece of legislation in 1988, the school reform legislation that created what are known as local school councils, which many listeners may be familiar with, but they're small little mini school boards at every school level. And the idea in 88 was to push control back down at the hyper local level to parents and community members in local communities at each individual school. However, within a few years, by 1995, there was sort of a switch at the legislative level because some folks felt like that wasn't exactly the right move to drive improvement in the schools. And so there was a bill passed, a school reform legislation of 1995 that handed control of Chicago public schools to the mayor. And it replaced what was, I looked this up recently, but what was a 15-member board with a 5-member reform board of trustees, and gave the mayor power to appoint what was then now renamed as a CEO instead of a superintendent, and really try to drive improvement by centralizing control back into the hands of essentially one person. And that's kind of the system we've lived under for 30 plus years. And I will say that 5 grew to 7 around 1999, 2000. And during your time, there was a period essentially from 2000 until 2024 when we were under mayoral control. Right. And we had Mayor Richard M. Daley, who appointed people to that 7-member board. And we had, I guess, pretty stable CEOs. We had Paul Vallis, who ran the schools for 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. We had Arnie Duncan, who was here for 7 or 8, and then went and in 2008, when President Obama was elected, became the national education secretary. Chicago public schools during that time went through a lot of what we now refer to as education reform, modern education reform, emphasis on closing achievement gaps, emphasis on providing parents with a lot of choices, diversifying the portfolio of schools that we offer, adding more magnet schools, adding many more charter schools, which are public schools but run by private entities, private nonprofits, and their own individual boards. And then we got to, I'm going very fast, but we got to essentially 2021 when the state legislature passed a bill that said, we're going to go back to an elected school board. And that elected school board is going to have 21 people, 1 school board president elected citywide, and 20 people from districts to be representative of the whole city. They said, they didn't want people elected at large because that would potentially not allow for representation from every community. So we ended up now with, in 2024, they drew a map that divided the city into 10 districts and elected 10 members from those districts to join 11 appointees. And so for the last 2 years, we've had a hybrid school board. And what's happening this November is those 11 appointees are going away, and those 10 districts are split in 2. So we'll have 20 districts and 20 representatives elected by those specific communities, and then 1 school board president that everyone in Chicago will vote for. And I've likened it a little to moving into, we have a new form of government that's much like a city council or a state legislature, where you have reps from various places and 1 at-large member who sort of leads that group.
I'm hopeful. I can say that one of the things that I learned is the schools impact everybody, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But I recall when my son was at Whitney Young and he was doing this big program he was trying to get done, and talked to Michael Scott, who was then the school board president, having been the second one appointed by Mayor Daley, because you just walked us through that history. And we went to, Michael invited him to come down and be a honorary board member to sit with the president. And so because we were those parents, he's going down to the school board meeting. We're going to, had never been there before, was blown away by all these people and all these issues and all this stuff that was going on here. And it was in November of that year that we went to the school board meeting. And a year later or less, I found myself as one of the members, and how those things happen was just interesting, but it happened. And then I saw it from a whole different standpoint, and being there and seeing the kinds of things that people are concerned about every month, and people who would come down early, 5 o'clock in the morning, to sign a list, to be talked to us for 2 minutes, to weigh their concerns. That these people are really interested in education and really concerned about what these things are. So the thought to put democracy around that is kind of what this elected school board comes to. Correct. Although that's also what the LSCs were supposed to do. Right. And that's another conversation that we will have, because when we start to get into this, Becky, later on, we'll talk about the fact that there actually are some unopposed candidates in this democracy, which takes away the thought about democracy and why do we come to that point. But so much more to come to as we build up to that. Talking here with Becky Vevea this morning about our schools. But first, Annette, tell us what's going on in the news.
A few clouds for starters. The National Weather Service says we'll see some sunshine with temperatures near 80. Good morning. I'm Annette Flournoy, and here's what's happening. There's new information this morning in the case connected to the missing Chicago U.S. postal worker. It's been nearly 8 years since Kiara Coles went missing. The 26-year-old was 3 months pregnant with her first child at the time. She was last seen October 2018 at an ATM inside a Walgreens. The reward in the case is now increased to $250,000 for information that could help find her. The U.S. Postal Service upped the reward. Her mother, Karen Phillips, continues to keep Kiara's name in the public. The Chicago Police Department classifies Cole's disappearance as an open but cold case. Well, Chicago's own Jesse White Tumblers gave a spectacular performance on America's Got Talent last night. The 92-year-old founder and former Illinois Secretary of State, Jesse White, was on stage with them. Now, before the competition, he had a chat with WVON's Matt McGill. WVON's Logan Page has a recap of that conversation.
Jesse White, the longtime Illinois politician and former Illinois Secretary of State, spoke with WVON's Matt McGill about what the opportunity meant for his organization and what it took to make it that far.
They said, well, the tumbling part of it is one that the kids really enjoy, and it's good and great for the community because these young people get a chance to show the world how athletic they are and about their commitment to duty.
After advancing through the judge auditions with 4 yes votes, the Chicago-based troupe depended entirely on overnight viewer voting to advance to the next stage. The Jesse White Tumblers began in 1959 and have been a Chicago tradition for decades. Logan Page, Our News Now, WVON 1690 AM.
In addition to advancing last night, the Jesse White tumbling team received a rousing standing ovation. Well, Governor Pritzker is issuing a state disaster proclamation following weeks of severe and record-breaking weather across Illinois. Last week's storms left widespread damage from torrential downpours, flash flooding, straight winds, and several tornadoes. The proclamation will make additional state resources available to support local home and business owners affected. Now, it covers more than a dozen counties, including Champaign, Cook, DuPage, and Will counties. And the Illinois Tollway is expected to vote today on the largest toll hike in state history. If approved, tolls in Illinois could raise nearly 60% beginning next January. Meanwhile, drivers would have to pay 45 cents more at toll booths. Well, that's a look at our news now. On 1690 WVON, traffic and weather up next. WVO News Time, 7:36.
When it comes to celebrating our Chicagoland communities, Wintrust is here for it. We are proud to support small businesses in our own backyards, like Pies of London, authentic English savory meat pies made with the best ingredients, located at 1071 Rolling Road in Elk Grove Village. Pop-in Plates, kitchen rentals, catering, and classes at 64 Lester Road in Park Forest. And Fusion Beauty Academy, professional training for cosmetology and more, located at 18 Ohio Street in Joliet.
Ada S. McKinley has a fantastic early learning and childcare program for kids from birth to age 5. Give your child a strong start. Quality childcare at 13 locations. Free and affordable options. Full days that are convenient for parents. Home-based services for expectant moms and their kids. And they welcome children with disabilities. Limited space available. Enroll now. Call 773-780-0050 or visit adasmckinley.org.
Chicago, are you ready to ride through art, culture, and pure Bronzeville magic? The Bronzeville Art District Trolley Tour is back every third Friday from 6 to 9 p.m. Hop aboard our double-decker trolley buses for a night of art, community, and unforgettable vibes. For powerful exhibits at Blanc Gallery to creative expressions at the Bronzeville Art Lofts, to cultural treasures at Fay African Art and the soul-stirring brilliance of Gallery Gashard. Each stop is a whole experience. This is not just a tour, it's a moving celebration of Bronzeville's heartbeat. Meet the artist, feel the rhythm, bring your friends, bring your energy. June 19th, July 17th, August 21st, and September 18th, every third Friday from 6 to 9 p.m. And it's free to ride the Bronzeville Art District Trolley Tour. 20 years strong and still rolling. Tap in for the culture. Tap in for the ride. RSVP now at Eventbrite and search the Bronzeville Art District Trolley Tour 2026. See you there.
Before Destiny Child became global icons, before the anthems, the awards, and many of the records being sold, there was a vision. And the man behind the vision was Matthew Knowles, the management powerhouse who helped transform the Houston-born Destiny Child into the biggest selling female group of all time. On Saturday, August 29th, you'll get a chance to meet this visionary as he narrates with a 5-piece string ensemble some of Destiny Child's biggest hits. Here's Say My Name, Survivor, and Independent Women like you've never heard them before. Reimagined, narrated by Matthew Knowles, with legendary hits transformed by a live 5-piece string ensemble. Experience live music differently. It's the music of Destiny Child, reimagined and narrated by the man who started it all, Matthew Knowles, backed by a string ensemble. This classical funk performance is taking place Saturday, August 29th at the Congress Theater at Michigan and Congress. Get tickets for this extraordinary music experience at destinychild.com. It's Destiny's Child, iconic and reimagined, featuring Matthew Knowles here in Chicago.
After graduating TTI, I got my CNA license, and an organization called Skills of Chicago helped me get into Northwestern Medicine.
Northwestern Medicine has created a pipeline to medical education and jobs in healthcare for our neighboring communities. It's no wonder we're the third largest private employer in Illinois.
It's a place where it's like a flower. I can just see myself grow.
Because we treat our community the same way we treat our patients. Better.
Hey everybody, this is Kendall Moore, the Kendall Moore Show, getting you from your work week to your weekend each and every Friday night from 6 until 9 p.m. I get you from your work week to your weekend. Church. Tabernacle.
Kendall Moore, radio for the next generation on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 AM, WVON.
This report is brought to you by Mattress Firm. Still sleeping on that old bed? Mattress Firm sleep experts can help you choose the perfect upgrade. They'll guide you every step, answering your questions. Shop today and save big during the best sale of the year. They'll make sleep easy.
WVON, traffic and weather now.
Traffic times are ramping up pretty quickly. We've just bumped up to 25 minutes on the inbound side of the Ryan from 95th Street into downtown. You're looking at a 17-minute trip along the Bishop 4 from I-80-94 to the Ryan. Tuskegee Airmen Memorial, 17 minutes as well from I-80. We're seeing some delays approaching 111th Street, then slow in. DuSable Lakeshore Drive, things are waking up there. We're seeing some heavier traffic, but not enough to register any long travel times. As you make your way along the Stevenson, just bumped up to almost 50 minutes. From I-355 to DuSable Drive, outbound, a 45-minute trip. The inbound side of the Eisenhower, 55 minutes from Thorndale to the Burns Circle. You're looking at a 50-minute trip on the return. And the Kennedy still heavy in both directions. Now 46 minutes in from O'Hare to downtown. Getting to the airport, a slow-moving 53-minute trip. Taking a look at our weather, partly cloudy and warm today with a high near 80, a day much like yesterday. Temperatures tonight leveling off at around 65. Currently, we're looking at 67 in Midway. It's 67 in Inglewood and 67 degrees here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm Annette Flournoy on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
If you're not out of the bed yet, then what are you waiting for? It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on 1690 WVON.
And love will shine on you one day. It's cold. There's not the young or old.
Welcome back. We are having a conversation this morning about schools. Becky Vevea is with me from Chalkbeat. She just went through a quick history of the governance of Chicago public schools. And Becky, here's a question that I think is important because I don't have any children in Chicago public schools. And as best I can tell, because my son has told me he's not moving back to Chicago. My daughter's out in Arizona. I don't expect I'm going to have any more children in Chicago public schools. But for all of us, I'm not leaving Chicago. If my wife's listening, hopefully she heard that part too, which means I'm still going to be paying taxes here. And as best I can tell, no matter who's in charge of schools, any place you go, any city you go to, you want to know how the schools are.
Right.
So talk about why it is that every Chicagoan should care about what's happening within our schools.
Well, that's a fantastic question. And I think you already touched on it, but it is, it's part of the fabric of a place and a fabric of a city. And it also, I think, it's a little bit of the signal or the what's the word? I don't want to say canary in the coal mine, but like it's a signal of what's to come in the future. Yeah. The children are going to then become the people, the citizens, the workers of tomorrow. And so I think when you think generationally, the experience that children have in a sort of a K-12 or pre-K to 12, pre-K to 16, many people talk about that whole extension through college now as an experience that, a generation or cohorts of kids will have. You want to make sure that that's a good experience that matches with, I guess, again, like bigger picture, the cultural, priorities of your city, of your region, whether you are, an industry heavy location, and those things matter. The connection between the schools and the functioning of your society really matters. And so I think even if you don't have children, the school board and how the schools operate, the public schools in particular, and I think that is why everybody should be interested in this. And if you're a voter, it's going to be on your ballot. And I think it's important to think about those offices and how that they will impact your lives, including even if, like I said, you don't have schools, you do pay taxes. So, what your bill is going to look like, these people are going to be in charge of. And so I think those are the many reasons why.
It matters. There are villages in Africa where they begin the day by asking, and how are the children? It matters. And when the Democratic National Convention was here, I had the opportunity to talk to some mayors. The City Club of Chicago, of which I'm a governor, had a forum over at the firehouse, and they were connected with the Association of Mayors. And so we went over, and I was able to participate in some of the interviews. And one of the mayors, I can't recall from which city, was one of the cities where they had an elected school board. And what he said was, irrespective of the fact that I'm not in charge of the schools, there is still a responsibility that I have, because the first thing that people are going to want to know after knowing that our city is safe is, how are our children doing?
Yeah.
And that all flows through education. And whether people consider them, as Milwaukee did, and all these other iterations of what schooling is, it is still the public's work, and it is still what the public does. And if we don't get that right, then it pales and moves into a lot of other things, which when we come back from this break, we'll talk about, because education does have an impact on crime and on housing, on taxes, on economic development, and on just the growth and the feel of a city. So let's talk about that. But first, let's take another break. We're talking this morning, we're talking education. Becky Vevea's in with us. She is the editor, the executive. She's the man. She is Chalkbeat Chicago, a wonderful resource for essential education reporting here in the city. But she's here with us this morning to kind of go through some of these things on a broad standpoint as we get deeper into this historic school board election, which is taking place for all of us on the 3rd of November. We'll be back right after this.
More of the morning show with Rufus Williams coming up on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
It's gospel with Pam Morris Walton, your gospel sister, on WVON Sundays, 11 to 2 p.m. Music to help you on your journey. I'll see you there. WVON.
This August, feed your mind and challenge your perspective on Vaughn TV. The Wronged, the Maurice Carter story, a compelling documentary that examines the devastating impact of wrongful conviction and one family's relentless fight to restore justice and reclaim a legacy.
Wrongful convictions are America's dirty little secret. Our justice system does not want anyone to know that this is happening. Our prisons are filled with people that were sent to prison for crimes they didn't commit, and science later proved they didn't.
Then watch Bound and Woven, where Rufus Williams sits down with authors, historians, and changemakers for powerful conversations exploring Black history, culture, and the ideas shaping our future. In August, discover programming that informs, inspires, and transforms, only on Vaughn TV. Watch on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, the WVON app, or at von.tv. Vaughn TV, for the culture, by the culture.
When it comes to celebrating our Chicagoland communities, Wintrust is here for it. We are proud to support small businesses in our own backyards, like Pies of London, authentic English savory meat pies made with the best ingredients, located at 1071 Rolling Road in Elk Grove Village. Pop-in plates, kitchen rentals, catering, and classes at 64 Lester Road in Park Forest. And Fusion Beauty Academy, professional training for cosmetology and more, located at 18 Ohio Street in Joliet.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley, inviting you to join me weekdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. right here on WVON. I am bringing you a national perspective on all the happenings in the Black community and, of course, politics. It's talk radio for us, by us, and this is where America listens.
It's Tavis Smiley, weekdays from 6 to 9 p.m. on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Greetings, WVON family. It's your brother and friend, Bomani Obadelli of the Activist Hour. Join me on Saturday mornings as we discuss a holistic and public health approach to addressing community violence. We will also be discussing ways that we can create a safe, peaceful, economically thriving, and healthy communities. Join me Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. on WVON for the Activist Hour.
This report is brought to you by Mattress Firm. Still sleeping on that old bed? Mattress Firm sleep experts can help you choose the perfect upgrade. They'll guide you every step, answering your questions. Shop today and save big during the best sale of the year. They'll make sleep easy.
WVON traffic and weather now.
Still looking at a 25-minute trip along the Ryan from 95th Street into downtown. Both the Bishop Ford and Tuskegee Airmen Memorial will take you 17 minutes in. DuSable Lakeshore Drive, we're seeing some movement there, but nothing above the posted speed for now. If you're on the Stevenson, still almost a 50-minute trip from I-355 to DuSable Drive 45 traveling out. The Eisenhower inching closer to an hour. From Thorndale to the Burns Circle outbound, just about a 55-minute trip. And the Kennedy still heavy in both directions. 46 minutes in from O'Hare to downtown, getting to the airport just shy of 55 minutes. Taking a look at our weather, we're starting out with some cloud covers this morning. The National Weather Service says before it's all said and done, we'll see some partly cloudy skies, a little bit of sun today, and warm as temperatures climb near 80. Right now, we're still hovering in the upper 60s this morning. It's 67 at O'Hare, 67 in Inglewood, and 67 degrees here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm in Illinois on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Keep your eyes on the road and both hands on the steering wheel. It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Welcome back. One of the things that's so important as we talk about education and why this is so critical is that it affects so many other aspects of life. We're talking here this morning with Becky Vevea from Chalkbeat. Becky, let's talk about that, how education affects crime and housing and taxes and economic development and how people view a city and whether people will live in a city and how people decide where they're going to live in a city based on the school.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously housing is very tethered to schools because so many schools are, you get assigned when you buy a house, you get assigned a neighborhood school. That's sort of the system that our country has lived with for many years, which is like you buy a property and then that property is tethered to a school, essentially. Chicago's is a little different. Obviously, I've mentioned in our timeline, there was a whole period where we really expanded options, and there's a lot of schools that people can choice and apply to and get in via a lottery. They don't.
All right, Renaissance 2010. Yes, that was part of my time.
Yeah. So, and maybe you can talk about that. But I think in terms of what I'll say with housing is you also see as neighborhoods change, the schools can shift and change, and who attends them shifts and changes. And one example I'll give is, in the last 3 years, we've seen there was that, Governor Abbott sending buses of migrants from Texas. And we had this huge influx of English language learner students who were part of that migration. And then last year, there was Operation Midway Blitz, where there was sort of a crackdown, and then we saw attendance dipping. And so all of these little things that happen outside of schools can impact what we then see in data, the data that schools track, and just the experience of a school building. So if you're in a school that suddenly gets an influx of kids who speak another language, and you don't have anyone on staff that speaks that language, that's a very a micro example of how these things interact with one another. Violence is another thing. There are areas of our city where violence is very prevalent, and the experience of going to school is very different there. Are they safe to even walk to school? If they're not, how do they get to and from school? When they're in a building, what is the safety? What are the security and safety measures? When there is an incident outside of a building, what does that do to the internal environment? And that can affect whether or not people are willing to send their children to a school in a neighborhood that maybe has more violence. We did open magnets and charters and that, could take kids from outside of those communities, but whether or not families were comfortable sending their children, on a bus there or driving them into a community where maybe even if the school was an amazing, wonderful school doing really wonderful academics, how do you feel safe still in the environment there? And so you see these other pieces of school of the culture that impact schools as well. Now, it's interesting when we think about the governance of the school board is there are limits now even to what the school board or the mayor, when the mayor had mayoral control, there's some shifting. And I know this is going to sound wonky, but who is actually responsible? Who actually has hard power to change it or legal authority to change something versus the soft power ability to influence a change in the schools. So this new school board will be able to pass policies and changes to academics and logistics, but so they're getting that power from what was used to be kind of vis-a-vis the mayor through the appointees.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see more I mean, you can talk about this maybe as
Yeah,
a
let's
appointed member, but
let's
like,
just get to
you're
it.
going to see disagreement. You're going to get people who are like, I think
Yeah.
we should pass this policy and that policy. And then people are going to have to get votes to implement a new policy.
One of the things when the mayor was responsible for schools, and I heard this a lot, and I know it wasn't true, was that the mayor would dictate all the things that the school board was doing. As the president of the school board, I would look sometimes and ask myself early on, is this coming to us because this is Arnie's idea, or is this coming to us because this is the mayor's idea?
Sure.
And from the position that I sit in, doesn't even matter. The question is it a good idea? Is this best for most children? So I need to consider that in that way. And so we'd sit, there were 7 of us and the votes would come. All of us are appointed by the mayor.
Yeah.
I don't know when the mayor appointed everybody, why he appointed different people. I know why he picked me. I don't know why he picked other people. So I don't know what they're bringing in this process, but sometimes we would go through and there would be this, and I didn't realize, one, that all the school board meetings were televised. So people were sitting watching these things. I didn't think about it, but we would have our votes, and I voted in every issue, and I voted last because I did. And there were times when the votes came down and I didn't even know because I didn't count them. They came down to 3-3, and I never tried to move it. I never tried to influence it. I tried to make sure we had the right information and vote your conscience, vote what you think is best.
Yeah.
And let's see where it goes. There were some times that we weren't ever fighting, not at odds in that way on the board, but there were some things that I voted one way and you voted another way.
Right.
And some things Arnie may have been pushing it in this direction.
Sure.
But we just didn't agree. I thought he was wrong.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we went. But at the end of the day, every month we had a meeting with the mayor. We had a education briefing with the mayor. And it was tense for some. It wasn't tense for me because I was working for free. So what you gonna do, fire me? But it was tense for some who weren't and didn't have the same feel that I had of what it was. But we knew ultimately who was responsible for the schools, and that was the mayor.
Yeah.
Under this new circumstance, we've got 21 people, and who are they accountable to? The people at large. But what does that mean? And how do you get through some of these things that are going to be challenging?
Yeah.
And how do you deal with 21 people?
Right.
Just brings forth so many other aspects of what will happen in trying to get things done.
Yeah. So this is where I think the school board president role will be a really important and critical one, because that is a person who's elected at large. And it will be interesting to see if whoever gets elected in November and then whoever gets elected in 2027 February mayor's race, if those two, like if the mayor and the school board president are not ideologically aligned, there could be some interesting sort of, I guess, tensions, because a lot of the powers will rest. And I should just give a quick list for listeners of what the school board has power over. They are responsible.
Hold on to that one.
Oh, okay.
That's important. And we're going to get into that. But let's do it. Because, of course, it's time
After
for a break. Let's find out from Annette what's going on in the headlines and what's in Black Information News. We'll talk about the authority and responsibility of the school board president and the board when we come back with Becky Vevea right after this.
Another warm day in Chicago as temperatures climb near 80. On this Wednesday, August 19th, 2026, I'm Annette Flournoy, in the headlines. The reward in the case of a years-old case of a missing Chicago U.S. postal worker is now increased to $250,000. Federal relief will soon be available for folks in Illinois. Governor Pritzker has declared a state declaration proclamation after last week's damaging storms. And meanwhile, tens of thousands of people in Northwest Indiana are still in the dark. NIPSCO saying some may not get electricity for another week. National news from the Black Information Network is next on the only urban talk radio station, 1690 AM WVON, Berwyn, Chicago. It's 8:01.
Here's BIN News now. After more than 20 years of delays, Detroit's Perfecting Church says its new campus near 7 Mile Road and Woodward Avenue is expected to be completed by the end of the year. Founding Bishop Marvin L. Winans.
During the crisis of the financial institutions in 2008, it stopped, but our faith kept growing.
The nearly 170,000 square foot facility will feature a 3,000 seat sanctuary and expanded community space. A California school district is facing a lawsuit over a high school field trip to a mosque. Parents claim students were encouraged to participate in religious practices and wear Islamic attire while challenging how the trip was conducted and how student images were later used. And the NBA's investigation into the Clippers is nearing an end. Reports say the league found no evidence that owner Steve Ballmer improperly paid Kawhi Leonard, though a review of the team's dealings with corporate sponsors is still ongoing. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app. Here's Terry McCready.
Black GOP Representative Byron Donalds winning Florida's Republican primary for governor.
Tonight, because of your sweat, because of your hard work, we have won a massive victory.
Congressman is endorsed by President Trump. Donalds will face former Congressman David Jolly in the midterms. Miami-Dade County's Black Commissioner Oliver Gilbert III winning the Democratic primary for Florida's 24th Congressional District. He's closing in on becoming the successor to Black longtime U.S. Representative Frederica Wilson. The 24th District includes predominantly Black and Hispanic communities in northern Miami-Dade and southern Broward counties, including Miami Gardens and Little Haiti. Gilbert, a former mayor of Miami Gardens, argues that his experience dealing with issues at the local level has prepared him to represent the district in Washington. And he's been talking affordability in proposals aimed at expanding access to health care. Gilbert will face Republican T.E. Brown in November. All right, taking a closer look at primary voters. Political scientist Dr. Susan McManus notes they're typically loyal to their party or feel it's their civic duty.
Some congressional district races in Florida, there are 9 or 10 candidates on the ballot for one of the party's nominees, and those kind of things generate a lot of interest.
McManus doesn't see interest growing in Florida politics until after Labor Day and wonders if the overall negativity will affect the November turnout. A polling firm that released erroneous polls is shutting down. Median Strategies provided polls showing the Black mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, and former Wisconsin governor candidate Francesca Hong ahead with wide margins in their respective races. A message on the company's website now says previously published polling releases have been withdrawn and should not be cited. It also says Median Strategies was intended to be a short-term social experiment. A lawsuit filed by Minnesota's Black Attorney General Keith Ellison against Texas Governor Greg Abbott. The action is to force the extradition of Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent Christian Castro, who was arrested in Texas. Abbott has withheld signing the extradition warrant for several months, preventing Castro's prosecution for a non-fatal shooting in Minneapolis. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa facilitating a gathering of regional leaders to address migration to South Africa. This after a backlash against foreign nationals, leading thousands to flee. Protests by populist groups demanding undocumented foreign nationals vacate by June 30th led more than 170,000 to leave in recent weeks. Ramaphosa briefed a summit of the 16-nation Southern African Development Community about the challenge of migration. Stay informed, stay connected, and subscribe. Follow VIN News this hour wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Terry McCready for the Black Information Network.
This report is brought to you by the Blizzard Double Flip Deal at Dairy Queen. The only thing better than grabbing a Blizzard treat on a warm sunny day will be snagging a second one for just 99 cents with the Blizzard Double Flip Deal. It's buy one Blizzard treat, get another one for just 99 cents. Only when you order in the DQ app. DQ. Happy tastes good. For a limited time at participating U.S. locations.
It's Rufus Williams. The thrill of summer is finally here, which also means it'll be over before we know it. This fall, the Rufus Williams Travel Club is heading to Charleston, South Carolina, October 8th through the 12th. Join me as we experience the beauty, the brilliance, and the culture of one of America's most captivating cities. We'll enjoy the charm of the Lowcountry, breathtaking scenery, incredible cuisine, and the rich African-American history of Charleston. There will also be a few special surprises designed just for our group. So whether you're traveling alone, with family, or with friends, you'll be welcomed into an unforgettable experience filled with great people and great memories. Space is limited, and the best rates are right now. Simply go to WVON.com, click on the Rufus Williams Travel Club banner, and reserve your space. Advantage International is the official travel partner of the Rufus Williams Travel Club. Charleston, South Carolina, October 8th through the 12th. Travel with people, Travel with purpose. Travel with us.
Ada S. McKinley provides behavioral and mental health services at 4 Southside clinics. They serve people of all ages with a strong focus on therapy, counseling, and youth crisis. Their counselors and mental health professionals are well-trained and experienced in treating problems caused by emotional distress and or trauma. To schedule an appointment, call 312-761-1099 or visit adasmckinley.org.
It's the afternoon show.
Those people that are saying, I am not my ancestors, are speaking from a place of privilege only given to them by their ancestors. So how can you come here now, right, when they've shed all the blood, when they've been bitten by all the dogs, when they've been hosed down by all the hoses, when they've been slapped in the face by all the cops, and here you come after laws have been passed to say what you wouldn't allow. I am not my ancestors. I think that is insanely disrespectful.
Weekdays at 3 on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
This is your host and life coach, Linnell Harris, and I want you to join me every Sunday morning from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. for Inspirational Perspective. On Inspirational Perspective, we talk life vision, life purpose, and the show is all about helping you live the best life possible. So join me as we look at supporting you in living the life you intend to live and making your life's vision a reality. Every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 a.m. WVON.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Tired of overpriced blinds? Blindster makes custom blinds simple and affordable. You measure at home, install yourself, and save big. No retail store markups, just custom blinds guaranteed to fit. Blindster.com.
WVON, traffic and weather now.
You can kind of tell school has started back again for many schools. CPS returns on Monday. We're looking at some high travel times this morning. You're looking at a slow-moving 30-minute trip along the inbound Ryan from 95th Street into downtown. The Bishop Ford, 18 minutes in from I-80-94 to the Ryan. Tuskegee Airman Memorial, slow-moving 25-minute trip in from I-80. DuSable Lakeshore Drive, we're seeing some activity now as you make your way from 67th Street to Jackson. Just about a 16-minute trip. You'll hit the brakes right around the Stevenson, then stop and go to Monroe. Hollywood to Monroe, about a 16-minute trip as well, heavy from Belmont to North Avenue. Thus, Stevenson, still just about a 50-minute trip in from I-355 to DuSable Drive, outbound 40. The Kennedy the Eisenhower still just shy of an hour from Thorndale to the Burns Circle, outbound a 50-minute trip. The Kennedy, heavy in both directions still. 45 minutes in from O'Hare to downtown, getting to the airport, a slow-moving 53-minute trip. Taking a look at our weather, we're seeing some clouds this morning. The National Weather Service says the clouds will give way to a little bit of sunshine, turning partly sunny today as temperatures climb near 80, quite warm and comfortable today, going down to 65 again tonight. But currently we're steady at 67 at Midway, is 67 in West Englewood, and 67 degrees here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm Annette Vernoy on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Summer's clocking out and school is clocking in. Chicago Public Schools are back August 24th. WVON wants you to make this year your best one yet.
Be what I wanna be what I wanna be. If I work hard at it, I'll work hard at it. I'll be where I wanna be. I'll be where I wanna be.
Live from the Xfinity Studios, it's the station that America listens to. WVON, Berwyn, Chicago. It's Rufus Williams on Chicago's Essential Storyteller, WVON.
You wonder how you do. Just one thing for you. I'm just cool. Can't you see? Girl, I'm so cool. Ain't nobody bad like me. Hey. U.S. Oh, stand still. U.S. That's cool. Ain't nobody that like me. Sing it, baby. U.S. What's that thing? U.S. That spell cool.
The Audio Genius. The Audio Genius. The Audio Genius.
Welcome back. Continuing on with Becky Vevea. If you guys are on my personal Facebook page, you're getting a lot of information in these breaks. Becky and I don't stop talking about these things as we go on. You may learn more about us. You may learn more about how, why, and the thinking. But good to have her here to talk about these things in a broader standpoint. Becky, right before we went to break, you were about to break down what the roles and the powers are of the president of the board. Yep. And the board members and all that.
Yeah. So I break it down into 5 key functions. The first being that they select leadership. They select a superintendent or a CEO in Chicago's case, and they hire and evaluate that person. That's a really key piece because that person, drives a lot of the whole culture of the giant organization, which is the second largest employer in our state. Right. They are in charge of budgeting. They levy your local taxes, they pass a budget, and they allocate the funding streams that come from the state and the federal government. They're in charge of policymaking, so setting expectations and defining academic goals, as well as, student code of conduct. These policies that are written in the policy manual, the board approves those. And then a key function of theirs is also community engagement. So I'm sorry, there were 4, not 5, but community engagement, listening to the public and reflecting the values of their constituents. Those are really the core functions of any school board, but in particular in Chicago. And there are boundaries to their powers. There should be, at least. And for instance, although the school board selects the CEO and hires and evaluates them, they don't get involved in the day-to-day operations of the district offices or the individual schools. They don't go in and tell a principal what to do. No, they don't run it. They don't do things like set a bus route, but they do approve a bus contract with a bus company. And so they also are in charge of contracts. Back to that budgeting bullet point, they approve contracts with vendors. They approve contracts with labor groups, labor unions, the Chicago Teachers Union contract they have to vote on. So they do wield a lot of power, and the president themselves is the person who sets the agenda for every meeting. They are the person who decides, are we going to even discuss this policy or vote on this policy? You might be a member who's like, I think we got to change the lunch policy. And unless you can get your proposed changes on the agenda for a meeting with the president, that president person is, it's not going to be on the agenda. And so I think you have this dynamic that it's the power of the president is going to be an important one. And there are 5 people who are vying for that seat. This is the president seat wasn't up for election in 2024. This is the first time. And that person will have a lot of power. And right now in this hybrid period, the president only casts tie-breaking votes, but after they are sworn in January 15th of 2027, the president will be a voting member.
Really important. I was on WTTW doing a weekend review a few weeks ago, and Sarah Karp was on. And she's the education expert from
I know Sarah well.
WTTW from PBS. And they were talking about which the schools come up, the school board elections come up, and they talked about the power of the school board president. And I was sitting somewhat in awe because I said, I didn't realize I had that much power. When all these things are going on, we were kind of going through the process. And, for me, I was on the board for a year, then I became president right after a year. So it kind of moved into what this was and recognizing what the responsibility was. But it wasn't any time that I ever looked at really until then to think about how much it was truly in setting what the agenda was.
Right.
And ensuring all these other things happen. One of the other critical things is certainly important to our listeners. The board also determines school closings.
Mm-hmm.
And that part, I know Rahm gets a lot of credit for having closed 50 schools.
Mm.
And Rahm did appoint those members of the school board.
Yeah.
But ultimately the board had to vote.
Yeah, right. And I think, interestingly, under mayoral control, like I think the agenda, though on paper, the president had the ability to set the agenda, that was one of the things that we were kind of on autopilot for 30 years. And like, frankly, the CEO was setting the agenda, the school CEO. And I think the school CEO the superintendent still, obviously, the budget's an example. Macklin King proposes a budget.
Right.
Then the board decides to vote on the budget. In the past, it was the budget was proposed and the board voted on it as is. This summer, the board decided.
Said no.
They said, no, we're gonna amend your budget you just brought us. We're gonna assume the state's gonna give us $150 million more dollars, and we're gonna pass that version. And that all happened, in a divided vote, kind of on the floor during the meeting. And that is that is a shift. That's not how the board had done its business.
Ever.
Really. Yeah. So I think that is the thing, that another reason why it's important to pay attention to what's happening currently. It will also help you, I think, as a voter, listeners, when they go to vote, realize, oh, that is what I'm voting for on this piece of paper, is like the person who will be in those meetings to, make those calls and move in those ways. And who do I want to represent me? Who do I think is going to be the strongest leader? Those are choices that voters are going to make.
And that's the other thing. When we come back, we'll talk about that, because one of the concerns I have with an elected school board, and I did have concerns about an elected school board, was the people who ultimately would be on the board could very well be people who are influenced by those who are impacted by the decisions the board makes. The board negotiates the teacher's contract. The board determines what charter schools are on or are not. There are a number of groups that have a true vested interest in what this board does. And let's talk about some of those factions, because they show up. They show up in the president's election for the school board. They show up in some of the members of the school board. And that determination on this last budget is where it showed up as well. Because what we know is that this last budget was passed with it truly still has a $150 million gap, with the expectation that the money is coming from Springfield, although there's some folks in power in Springfield that say, I don't know how that's going to happen, because Chicago is only 20% of all the students in the state. And we can't give this to Chicago without everybody else saying, we need these things as well.
Right.
We haven't touched upon this whole thing around funding or any of that. And we probably won't, because it becomes that's a really big and convoluted deal, particularly in the ways in which funding is done now. But there's a lot more to this than just a personality contest, which is why we're having this conversation. We're talking with Becky Vevea, Chalkbeat. We'll wrap up this conversation, at least for today, when we come back right after this.
More of the morning show with Rufus Williams coming up on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Activists Incorporated, in partnership with 3rd Ward Alderman Pat Dowd, State Senator Maddie Hunter, and State Representative Kimberly Dupuy-Clay, presents the free back-to-school haircuts and hairstyles event on Sunday, August 23rd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. with music provided by Power 92's own DJ Nathis. Kids ages 5 to 17 can receive free haircuts, hairstyles, backpacks, and school supplies while supplies last at participating locations. Another barbershop, 843 East 47th Street, House of Heteras, 251 West 95th Street, Hair Experts Barber College, 216 East 47th Street, Hair Experts, 5401 South Wentworth, Studio B Barber Salon, 2113 South Pulaski Avenue, RV Barbershop Bronx Cuts, 15306 Page Avenue, Bronzeville Barber and Beauty Salon, 122 East 35th Street, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Services for boys and girls are available at select locations. For more info, call Activists at 312-766-7145. Supported by the Sisterhood and Grand Boulevard Prevention Services.
Rent a boat, bring your own, or fish from shore. The Forest Preserves of Cook County has more than 40 fishing sites across Cook County. This message brought to you by the Forest Preserves of Cook County. Visit fpdcc.com to explore the forest preserves.
Get your outfits, grab your crew, and get on board with the Me Plus 3 special starting at $1,000 per person. This time, join the Foundation Fantastic Voyage 2025 cruise will be fun, entertaining, and this will be a once-in-a-lifetime event with seminars, fitness workouts, parades, concerts, and much more starting at $1,000. Call 214-495-1963 to book your Me Plus 3 cabin. Prices are based on 4 passengers in the cabin, so book today while they last and before cabins are sold out.
When you're finally off the clock after a long day, dishes put away, kids asleep, feet kicked up, heartburn. Don't let heartburn take over your hard-earned moment. Quick, Alka-Seltzer. Nothing works faster for heartburn relief. Alka-Seltzer effervescent tablets begin neutralizing stomach acid in seconds, so you can get back to your one more episode marathon. Quick, Alka-Seltzer. Because nothing works faster for heartburn relief. Use as directed.
Protect your money and build your wealth. Sundays at 3 p.m., hosts and owners of Top and Top Insurance Agency, Clydell and Betty Top, teach you about protecting your assets, 401ks, annuities, life after retirement, the differences and benefits of life insurance, and they take questions. Their advice can enhance your financial future and your legacy. Call for a free WVON financial consultation, 773-881-8110. Tune in Sundays at 3 p.m. to protect your money and build your wealth. Powered by Top and Top Insurance Agency.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Tired of overpriced blinds? Blindster makes custom blinds simple and affordable. You measure at home, install yourself, and save big. No retail store markups, just custom blinds guaranteed to fit. Blindster.com.
WVON traffic and weather now.
If you're hopping on DuSable Lakeshore Drive at 67th Street on your way downtown, expect a 20-minute trip. Right now, solid from the Stevenson to Monroe. That trip from Hollywood to Monroe will take you 19 minutes. Turning to the Ryan, a slow-moving 30-minute trip from 95th Street to downtown. The inbound side of the Bishop Ford, 18 minutes still from I-80-94. Tuskegee Airmen Memorial, slow-moving 25-minute trip in from I-80. You'll hit the brakes right around 119th Street and slow in. Turning to the Stevenson, a slight improvement. 45 minutes in from I-355 to DuSable Drive, 40 traveling out. The Eisenhower still around an hour from Thorndale to the Burns Circle. That outbound trip will take you 50 minutes. And the inbound side of the Kennedy now 44 minutes from downtown, from O'Hare rather to downtown. Getting to the airport from downtown will take you 50 minutes. Taking a look at our weather, a few clouds this morning. The National Weather Service says these clouds will give way to a little bit of sunshine. We'll see a mix of clouds and sun today. And warm. Temperatures climbing near 80 once again today. Pretty much a day like yesterday. Temperatures right now are creeping up slowly through the 60s. We've made it to 69 at O'Hare. It's 69 in South Shore. And 69 degrees here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm in Flournoy on the Talk of Chicago. 1690 WVON.
If you're not out of the bed yet, then what are you waiting for? It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on 1690 WVON.
Welcome back. Wrapping up our conversation for today on this upcoming school board elections. You should know we're going to do a lot here on WVON as it relates to the school board. Our esteemed news director, Annette Flournoy, is putting together a program where we will talk directly to the people who are vying to be the president of the school board. You want to be tuned in for that as well throughout our shows, throughout these next 11 weeks. You will hear a lot about what's going on here. One of the things, and I'm talking this morning with Becky Vevea, because who else to talk to who is as knowledgeable about this as Becky is with her role at Chalkbeat and all the other things that she's done. Becky, one of the things that we talked about during our break is the fact that as this elected school board comes in, they're no longer under the guise, under the control of the mayor, which means they are now a separate entity in the city. So there's so many things that are connected, that are entangled between where the schools are and where they will be after this election. Share with us what that kind of means and how that's going to impact the system.
Yeah, so there are a number of ways in which the school board has been kind of, I guess, tangled up with. The entanglements you mentioned is a good word, but there's a lot of connective tissue that has existed for the last 30 years under mayoral control, where, you know, you could have intergovernmental, like kind of quick intergovernmental decisions about things like, an example being, you know, police being stationed in schools. So the police department's part of City Hall. You know, the mayor could say, so be it, and this is the contract, and the board would, you know, that would be taken care of. Now those things as two separate entities get kind of negotiated and discussed. And actually we even saw the school board pre-hybrid period take some votes to end that contract with police. And so there are other things, real estate, a lot of the deeds for schools say, you know, the city of Chicago in the trust of the schools, the trust of the public schools. Yeah. So, you know, who's the actual like owner of that real estate? And so you have a number of what I'll just say like sticky wicket things that if you think about the comparison of like a divorce, for instance, you have to you have to rewrite and on paper decide, okay, who's going to take this and who's going to take that and who's going to do this responsibility and that responsibility. And so you have this happening, I think, as this board moves to being its own elected governing entity, no longer enmeshed with City Hall, but there's still things. I mean, even I hope that this terminology your listeners will understand, the TIF surplus, you know, tax increment financing districts,
very important.
Very important for the funding of schools locally. It's a pot of money that, you know, the mayor kind of decides how much gets surplused, but CPS by law is a beneficiary of whatever is surplus. They get about half of it, and so. But they don't get to say, hey, we want a surplus, you know, like that's not, the board president can't say, I must have a surplus and this is how much it's going to be. The mayor says that. And so they have to have this sort of, now we will move into a period where the kind of, again, the relationships, the sort of soft power connections between these two will matter in different ways, because there's not sort of that direct link, but there's, you know, a redefining of roles. And that's something that we see coming to a head from time to time. There was the big fight a year ago over the municipal pension payment and whether the board needed to kick in money for that. Yeah. That is a city pension fund that is actually on paper, the purview of the city council and the mayor. And so, but a lot of the members of that fund are school employees. Right. So, you know, having these relationships and working that out, whether it's in legal documents on paper or in handshake agreements, like those are things that are, I think, have already made for like an interesting kind of bumpy and sometimes not so smooth road.
Well, Becky, I appreciate your time and your expertise this morning. I want to ask you one final quick question.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Of which I obviously should know the answer to and probably do, but these are unpaid positions.
Yes.
That people are now putting up money, raising money, running for. Mm-hmm. The big question is, why are they doing this? Why would anybody want this job?
They all have their own motivations, and I can't speak for every individual candidate, but yes, they are unpaid roles, but they do, as we've talked about this whole show, like they do wield significant amount of power over important decisions in our public schools. And so if you are a person who, you know, many of the people running have careers in education, whether they're former principals or former nonprofit leaders that, you know, care a lot about, they have an idea of how schools and public education should operate. And some are union organizers, for instance. And so it is a position of power in which they can then yield influence over. And so I think, like, why does anybody run for an elected office? It's to make change and have an influence. And so I think that's what we're seeing with these elections. And I think it is also a really, maybe I'm a little Pollyanna, but like a really fascinating and exciting thing to watch this in real time shift and become a new form of government. It's a little like, I hate to make the Hamilton reference, but there's like an experiment going on, and it's an incredible kind of thing to witness history and have a front seat to. And some people feel very passionately that they want a firsthand role in it. They want to be that first board president or that first elected rep.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But what's going to be important is that we really have to make sure that children are put first and education is put first beyond all these other things that happen. Becky Vevea, thank you so much for your time and expertise. Let's do this. Let's find out from Annette what's going on in the news. When we come back, we're going to shift gears and talk about a wonderful legacy dance program that's coming up here real soon. Mashaune Hardy will be with us right after this.
These clouds are expected to give way to some sunshine as temperatures climb near 80 once again. Good morning. I'm Annette Flournoy, and here's what's happening. Federal relief will soon be available for folks in Illinois. Governor Pritzker has declared a state declaration proclamation after last week's damaging storms. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of people in Northwest Indiana are still in the dark. NIPSCO says some may not get electricity back for another week. Perry Williams has more.
This resident says she's been without electricity for more than a week.
I've lived here 75 years since the day I was born. I've never seen nothing like this. This is crazy.
In Gary, a mobile food pantry served nearly 150 people and ran out of food and sent others to a distribution site in Lake Station. Utility officials hope to have power restored in Gary and Hammond by Friday, and Munster and Highland may not get restored until next Tuesday. I'm Perry Williams.
NIPSCO says utility crews are working overtime trying to get things back to normal. Well, Governor Pritzker is issuing a state disaster proclamation following last week's severe storms. Now, last week's storms left widespread damage from torrential downpours, flash flooding, straight line winds, and several tornadoes. Also, the Cook County Board of Review is offering up some help. This afternoon, they're hosting a meeting to help people locate relief options for home and business owners whose properties were destroyed and now uninhabitable due to storms and flooding. They will also provide important deadline and pre-file opportunities for property tax appeals process. Now, starting September 1st, Cook County property owners can expect to get their second installment for the 2025 property tax bills. Today's meeting is at the Cook County Board of Review at 3 this afternoon. Well, that's a look at our news now on 1690 WVON. Traffic and weather up next. WVON News Time, 8:35.
This summer, experience live music under the stars at Ravinia, everybody. Gladys Knight, Brian McKnight are going to headline, and they'll be joined by Chance the Rapper, and a special opening night gala performance featuring Lizzo with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. See great performances all season long, from legendary voices to hometown favorites. Ravinia brings unforgettable sounds to the summer stage. Get your tickets now at ravinia.org.
Tuned in to your favorite WVON personalities on Facebook Live? Don't just watch, like it, love it, share it. Every click helps us grow the conversation and keep the community strong. So remember, like it, love it, share it, Chicago.
Get the Me Plus 3 special on the 2025 Tom Joyner Foundation Fantastic Voyage sailing on October 19th. Call 214-495-1963 today and ask for your Me Plus 3 cabin special starting at $1,000 per person. So grab your crew and start planning your trip. Call and ask for your Me Plus 3 special so you can enjoy Neo.
This is your boy Neo.
Cat Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Tyrese, Mary. Brownstone, Eric Benet.
What's up, everybody? This is Eric Benet.
The Southern Soul Show and more. Call 214-495-1963 so you won't miss out on this priceless cruise starting at $1,000 per person. Prices are based on 4 passengers in the cabin, so book today while they last and before cabins are sold out.
Bel Air is coming back for a final season on Peacock, and in the end, it is all love. Will and Carlton start their senior years and look towards building their futures, while the brotherhood between Phil and Jeffrey is tested. And on top of that, Viv, Ashley, and Hillary all face new eras of their own. This chapter may be closing, but their journeys are just beginning. Stream the final season of Bel Air now only on Peacock.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley, inviting you to join me weekdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. right here on WVON. I am bringing you a national perspective on all the happenings in the Black community and, of course, politics. It's talk radio for us, by us, and this is where America listens.
It's Tavis Smiley, weekdays from 6 to 9 p.m. on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
I was having a medical procedure, and I wanted to ensure my kids would get my home should something happen to me. I called attorney Ted London. He provided the land, trust, and power of attorney. Now my kids will not have to go through the probate process.
After the death of my husband, I had to get my affairs in order. I called attorney Ted London. Now my family and home will not have to go through the probate process.
773-721-3333.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Tired of overpriced blinds? Blindster makes custom blinds simple and affordable. You measure at home, install yourself, and save big. No retail store markups, just custom blinds guaranteed to fit. Blindster.com.
WVON, traffic and weather now.
There's a new crash on the south side in the Greater Grand Crossing neighborhood at the intersection of 75th and Cottage Grove. Right now, 75th is shut down in both directions from Evans to Maryland, and then Cottage Grove in both directions from 76th Street to 73rd. Apparently, that accident is involving some very serious injuries. Taking a look at your travel times, a slight improvement along the Ryan, that inbound trip from 95th Street to downtown, a slight improvement down to 26 minutes. As you make your way on the Bishop 4, still that 18-minute trip in from I-80-94, Tuskegee Airmen Memorial, now 20 minutes in from I-80. Things are still slow along DuSable Lakeshore Drive, especially northbound. We're looking at a 20-minute trip from 67th Street to Jackson. Most of your time will be spent between the Stevenson and Monroe. As you make your way from Hollywood to Monroe, a 19-minute trip there. The Stevenson 45 in from I-355 to DuSable Drive, 40 traveling out. The Eisenhower still lingering right around an hour. From Thorndale to the Burns Circle, that outbound trip at 50 minutes. And the Kennedy back up to 44 from O'Hare to downtown, getting to the airport, 50 minutes. Taking a look at our weather, we're seeing a mix of clouds and sun today. The National Weather Service says we're in store for a warm, pleasant day as temperatures climb near 80. Tonight, they'll level off somewhere around 65. We're still holding at 69 at Midway. It's 69 in Greater Grand Crossing and 69 degrees here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm Annette Flurnoy on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Keep your eyes on the road and both hands on the steering wheel. We will not be held responsible for any accidents. It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
What you say? What you say?
Welcome back. So we covered education this morning. We've covered a little bit of health. Now let's talk about culture. Joining us this morning is Mashaune Hardy. Mashaune is the co-director executive of the Chicago Black Dance Legacy Project. Well, I'm not going to even tell you. Mashaune, good morning. Welcome to WVON. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm well, and how are you?
I am fantastic, but you're going to make it even better because when we think about dance and we think about Black dance, it just puts you in a whole different frame of things. What's happening at the Harris Theater later this month?
Well, on August 28th, the Chicago Black Dance Legacy Project is presenting Dance in the Archive, Embodied History's Collective Power. It's a presentation from the third cohort of the Chicago Black Dance Legacy Project, which is an initiative of the Reva and David Logan Center for the Arts at the University of Chicago. A lot of words in our title, but really it's just an expression of Black joy and Black dance, as well as culture and history.
Talk more about that. You've got 10 companies that are coming together. These are legacy bearers. When this came to be, Mashaune, what did this happen? And these 10 that are there, talk to us about the companies that we'll see on the 10th.
Okay. The cohort, our third cohort, like you said, consists of 10 companies, and I'm going to give them to you now. I've gotten pretty good at reciting them. They are Chicago Multicultural Dance Center, Hip Play Ballerinas, Deeply Rooted Dance Theater, The Era Footwork Crew, Forward Momentum Chicago, Joel Hall Dancers and Center, Mad Rhythms, Move Me Soul, Muntu Dance Theater of Chicago, Najwa Dance Corps, and Praise Productions. I think I've incorporated. I think I've gotten everybody. Those are the 10 companies that we have. They are a mix of companies that have been in the business for 10 years or so, all the way up to companies that have been producing great art for more than 50 years. The cohort actually came together, the project itself came together as an idea from Tracy D. Hall, who at the time was at the Joyce Foundation, who granted their largest dance grant to the project as an initiative of the Logan Center. And what our mission is to increase the visibility and sustainability of Black dance companies in Chicago, and thus the dance ecosystem in the city of Chicago. So we started out with 8 companies, and some of our alumni include Iodele Drum and Dance and Red Clay Dance Company. And we progress now to our third cohort, which has those 10 companies. The project has been around since 2019. And we're just doing great work in the areas of advocacy, archival, capacity building, and presentation. And so this show that you'll see on August 28th is honoring the civic and cultural legacy bearers in the city of Chicago on whose shoulders we stand, and how they have used creativity to increase their legacy and also to solve their problems in business and all other genres in the city of Chicago. Just want to make sure that we give our just due to those who have paved the way for us to do what we do today.
It is so powerful in what you're doing. As you went through the 10 companies that are part of this cohort, I'm excited because most of them have been on our show at some point talking about performances that they were doing. And so to see all of them come together for this project is just going to be, I'm excited just thinking about it. What's the evening going to be like with these different groups sharing their works? How does the evening flow?
The evening flows, well, first of all, let me say that these 10 companies encompass the breadth of dance in Chicago. It's not all forms of dance that exist in Chicago, not all forms of Black dance, but it is a very wide sampling. We have African dance, tap, contemporary, ballet. We have the breadth of Black dance in Chicago. We also have a breadth of ages. We have companies that are youth-based and pre-professional, all the way up to professional dance companies and elders that are in their 60s or more dancing on the floor. And they're all going to present some wonderful Black joy and Black dance on August 28th.
Just phenomenal. Are there tickets available? If there are, how do people get them?
Yes, tickets are available. You can get them at the Harris Theater. I believe that website is harristheaterchicago.com. I want to make sure I'm not telling you the wrong thing. Yes, harristheaterchicago.org.
.org, yes.
Yes, harristheaterchicago.org. Again, it's August 28th at 7 p.m. Tickets start at $46, so it's a very reasonable way to experience joy on that evening. And we would love to see everyone there, including you.
You'll see me there. I'm there. Chicago Black Dance Legacy Project with Dancing the Archive, Embodied History's Collective Power. 10 companies celebrating 10 legacy bearers in one epic performance. This is, if you've seen any of them, you'll want to see all of them. No, I'm decided not to go out of town just so I can be there for this.
Oh, we thank you and appreciate your support.
No, this is great. So again, go to harristheaterchicago.org. You can get tickets there. I will tell you last year's was sold out. So if you're thinking about it, stop thinking, start acting, and make sure you get on top of this. This is just, I'm thrilled. I'm excited and grateful to you for coming on this morning and talking with us about it.
You're welcome. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Be well. Or break a, what are you saying, Dan? You don't say break a leg. That seems wrong.
You do. You say break a leg. And in the African tradition, you say Papa Lapa. Just have a good time.
Papa Lapa. I like that. Well, Papa Lapa. And we'll talk to you again soon and see you on the 28th there at the Harris Theater. Be well, Mashaune.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Let's take a quick break. We'll wrap up the show when we come back after this.
More of the morning show with Rufus Williams coming up on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
What if you could have the most reliable fiber-powered Wi-Fi? And get this, what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years guaranteed? Now through August 24th, new Xfinity customers can get our best price on gig Wi-Fi this summer before it disappears. Just $50 a month for 5 years. No annual contracts, no hidden fees, and our best equipment included. Plus, get online in minutes with same-day Wi-Fi. It's Wi-Fi that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them, like super intelligent Wi-Fi with a sixth sense. Plus, it keeps you protected from online threats and get Peacock Premium included for 2 years. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities. Get it now at Xfinity.com. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds vary. Use of fiber coaxial cable. Learn more at Xfinity.com/same-day Wi-Fi.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast. Orders roll in, deadlines close in. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Every package stays in our secure network from dock to door. And with nationwide reach, dependable tracking, and upfront affordable pricing, you get built-in peace of mind. You run the business. We run the routes. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more.
See something suspicious? Say something. OEMC has your back. Call 911 for police or fire. Keep Chicago safe. Again, if you see something suspicious, say something. Call 911 for police or fire. And keep Chicago safe.
Get your outfits, grab your crew, and get on board with the Me+3 special starting at $1,000 per person. This time, join the Foundation Fantastic Voyage 2025 cruise will be fun, entertaining, and this will be a once-in-a-lifetime event with seminars, fitness workouts, parades, concerts, and much more starting at $1,000. Call 214-495-1963 to book your Me+3 cabin. Prices are based on 4 passengers in the cabin, so book today while they last and before cabins are sold out.
When you're finally off the clock after a long day, dishes put away, kids asleep, feet kicked up, heartburn. Don't let heartburn take over your hard-earned moment. Quick, Alka-Seltzer. Nothing works faster for heartburn relief. Alka-Seltzer effervescent tablets begin neutralizing stomach acid in seconds, so you can get back to your one more episode marathon. Quick, Alka-Seltzer. Because nothing works faster for heartburn relief. Use as directed.
Greetings, WVON family. It's your brother and friend, Bomani Obadeli of the Activist Hour. Join me on Saturday mornings as we discuss a holistic and public health approach to addressing community violence. We will also be discussing ways that we can create a safe, peaceful, economically thriving, and healthy communities. Join me Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. on WVON for the Activist Hour.
This report is brought to you by Blindster.com. Tired of overpriced blinds? Blindster makes custom blinds simple and affordable. You measure at home, install yourself, and save big. No retail store markups, just custom blinds guaranteed to fit. Blindster.com.
WVON traffic and weather now.
New this break, we're monitoring a new crash. This one on the south side in the Beverly neighborhood at 99th and St. Charles Road. You want to St. Charles Street, that is. You want to avoid that area if at all possible. Taking a look at our travel times right now as you make your way along the Ryan, you're down to 26 minutes still from 95th Street into downtown. Outbound things are moving well. If you're on the inbound side of the Bishop Ford, still that 18-minute trip in from I-80-94 to the Ryan, you're down to 18 now along Tuskegee Air Memorial from I-80. DuSable Lakeshore Drive still pretty heavy as you make your way from the Stevenson to Monroe. Pretty much stop and go there. And making your trip from 67th Street to Jackson now just about 18 minutes. You're still moving along at 19 minutes from Hollywood to Monroe. If you're on the Stevenson, a slight improvement. You're down to 40 minutes from I-355 to DuSable Drive, 40 traveling out. The Eisenhower still that hour trip from Thorndale to the Burn Circle. Outbound, give yourself 50. And the Kennedy, a slight improvement, but still heavy at 39 minutes in from O'Hare to downtown. Getting to the airport now, a 41-minute trip. Taking a look at our weather, these clouds are expected to give way to some sunshine today. So we're in store for a partly cloudy day as temperatures climb near 80, nice and warm. Tonight, the National Weather Service says we're going to dip down to around 65, but we've made it to 70 at Midway, is 70 in Hyde Park, and 70 degrees here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at traffic and weather now. I'm in Flanoy on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Keep your eyes on the road and both hands on the steering wheel. We will not be responsible for any accidents. It's the WVON Morning Show with Rufus Williams on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Just how you feel.
Welcome back. You know, this entire month of August and the month of July that passed and the month of September that's coming, Vine TV invites you to feed your mind, renew your spirit, and challenge your perspective. Check out Bound and Woven with me. I've got another one coming up this week. I think this week is 1925. Anyway, I'll tell you more about it, but make sure you check out Bound and Woven with yours truly. Serenity, Strength, and Style with Sylvia Ewing and friends, and two powerful documentaries. Wronged, the Maurice Carter story, took place right up the road in Benton Harbor. You want to see that story. You want to live that story. You want to understand what's happening to people so we can stop it from happening. And you want to check out Behind Our Walls, exploring justice, resilience, and the power of second chances. Nathan Rose was on with me last week to talk about Wronged, and he gave us a little bit of Behind Our Walls. I think he's going to be on with Cleopatra today to talk more about that. You can check out Vine TV anytime. Check it out on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, the WVON app, or simply go to VON.tv. Vine TV, for the culture, by the culture. Two quick things. One, Titus and Annette, did you have a chance to see the Jesse White tumblers last night on America's Got Talent?
No, I did not.
Annette?
Yes, I did. They were amazing. They never disappoint, first off. And it was just so heartwarming to see the former Secretary of State himself stand there as like a human barrier and with his arms extended above his head. And he's a tall man. And those tumblers even jumped over him. So it was amazing. They got a standing ovation. And it was just, you makes your heart so warm and I was so proud of them. You know, they're from Chicago, and it was just amazing to see how the world responds to them the same way we do. And they advanced too. So that makes it even more exciting.
Well, they brought the energy, they brought the funk. The voting ended this morning at 6:00. I hope everybody stopped and voted. I was in a frat meeting last night and they began by saying, everybody, we got to vote. Go to NBC.com, AGT, and vote for the Jesse White tumblers.
That's right.
It was just a phenomenal performance. And this is what we in Chicago know. We didn't see the best of them last night. They were really good. They were good the first time. Even Simon said, I didn't know how you guys were going to beat yourself this time, but they did. And what I watched, I already know they got a whole lot more in the tank. So we are prayerful that they make it to the semifinals, at which point Watch out, world. Because
I'm just saying.
They brought so much energy last night. It was just wonderful. And to see the joy on the smallest ones that were there. And to your point, Annette, to see 92-year-old former Secretary of State Jesse White walk out and be part of the performance. You know, back in the day, it wasn't that long ago, probably 5 years, he'd do the same thing, but he would do it standing on his head. And so if they could, maybe he's saving that.
You said 5 years ago?
Yes. 5 years ago,
Yeah.
he was standing on his head while they jumped over him.
What was that? I think the Bud Billiken or something. Then when he did that,
Bud Billiken, he did that there. So yeah, it was good for them. Great show of Chicago. Great show of young Black talent. Great reaction there at America's Got Talent.
So, Titus, if the former Secretary of State is standing on his head 5 years ago, I know you can do the Spider-Man challenge.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Spider-Man goes Titus. Look, one more thing I want to share with you all before I get out of here. Today at noon, there will be an organization down in support of Father Pfleger, going down to the headquarters of the Archdiocese. Make sure you know that. Make sure we stand in support. Here's the thing that I really need you all to know. The Archdiocese, the Archdiocese of Chicago put out a security alert because of this demonstration. They said, please be aware of a demonstration planned for Wednesday, August 19th between noon and 1 outside of the Quigley Center. The demonstration is in support of Father Michael Pfleger. We currently are coordinating our response partners, including the Chicago Police Department, and are not aware of any credible threats. We recognize that these situations can be fluid and escalate without warning. Unfortunately, at times, people from outside the parish may get involved and use the protest as a means to advance their own cause or incite provocation. Therefore, we're providing the guidance below to ensure everyone remains safe and secure. 1, do not confront or engage with those assembled outside the building. Do not speak to media. Refrain from wearing items that identify you as an employee of the Archdiocese. Limit building entry/exit during the demonstration. Walk confidently and do not stop for protesters. Expect to be filmed. Do not hold doors for anyone. Be alert of emergency communications from the Archdiocesan security. And if at any point you feel unsafe, call 911, then notify security. Did they do this on January 6th?
Nowhere near.
What the hell? You know who's going to be out there in support of Father Pfleger. They have just thrown up all kinds of alarms around that from the Archdiocese of Chicago.
So, Rufus, I have to ask, was there a threat that, preceded this?
In the letter itself, it says, we are currently coordinating with the Chicago Police Department and are not aware of any credible threats.
So then that's a little extreme. It's a little over top. I go to Holy Name Cathedral, and there are protests outside of that cathedral every Sunday from everything from school closings to everything. And I have never, ever heard anything remotely similar to what you just read. That's extreme. I mean, that needs a response, I think.
There you go, folks. And yes, in fact, it absolutely does. We know what our people are going to do, and we know why we're there, and we know what should happen. And this just accelerates a situation that should not need to be required in the first place.
It's a nothing burger. They're going to protest. People protest in this city every day.
All the time. It's a big security alert. So just know how we are regarded in these spaces. Look, I'm so grateful to Becky Vevea for being with us this morning. I hope we got a lot of information out. It will be in a podcast, as we will do with all of the school-related podcasts, school-related conversations that we have, looking up to this election on the 3rd of November for the first fully elected school board. It's important, but our children are most important. So let's make sure we keep the right things first. Annette, as always, appreciate you for everything that you do that gets us through the day. And Titus, thanks for keeping all these things together. You are the man. You're the man. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I ask you, as you go through the course of the day, you will come across people who are dealing with things that you know absolutely nothing about. So please be kind, always. And with that, Annette, tell us what's in the headlines. And T-Dub, take us home.